Robert Heinlein, one of the most famous sci-fi authors of the 20th century, once said that you should finish everything that you write. Now, keep in mind, Heinlein wrote in a time where short stories were a much bigger deal than they are now, so it was easier for him to finish a 6,000 word story than it would be for us to finish 60,000 word novels or 100,000 word novels. And he did write some novels, but I think nowadays we're so focused on writing a great novel, putting it up on Amazon or submitting it to an agent, and with that in mind, we have to wonder, does Heinlein's advice still hold up? What's up, guys? My name is Brandon McNulty. I'm a writer, and welcome to my writing channel. Today I want to take a closer look at Heinlein's advice and decide if it is still a great piece of advice. I think there are some pros and cons to finishing everything that you write. And let's start with the positives. I think if you do finish everything you write, you are first of all setting a great standard for yourself where you never give up and you always fight to the bitter end when it comes to your writing. This is something that's great not just for drafting your stories, but for other aspects of your writing life as well. For instance, when you're marketing your books, when you're querying agents, when you're publishing, whatever you're doing in the writing world, it's always going to come with its fair share of roadblocks and just there's going to be some heartbreak along the way. So if you can set the mentality where you think to yourself, I'm never going to quit, I'm going to fight until the end, I'm just going to make it happen no matter what. If you have that attitude, it will take you places. Another great reason to finish everything you write is that it teaches you to write every single section of a novel. This is something we take for granted. I know when I first started to try writing novels, I would start off at the very beginning like anyone else, and maybe I'd write that first act and things would be going pretty well, and then once I got into the second act, everything would fall apart on me and I would just give up and I'd start over at the beginning with a new novel, or maybe I'd start over with the original, or I'd push it off to the side or come back to it at a later time. And the problem with doing that is that you get very good at writing the first act. You get very good at introducing characters and setting up an inciting incident, but you don't get very good at carrying your story out and extending your character arcs and all the stuff that happens in the middle of the story. And then you also don't get experience with how to end a story. And those are things that you have to learn how to do if you're going to write a novel. It's just plain and simple. You can't just practice one area of the story and expect to write a great novel someday. If you're going to write a great novel, you have to write some bad ones, and that's okay. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Now, one more positive thing that happens if you write from start to finish, you will actually generate new ideas that you can use in future works. You might say, that doesn't make any sense. What is the purpose of writing all these different ideas in one story just so I can have them in another? You'd be surprised. Sometimes when you write a long work like a novel and you get really into it and you start trying out different things and you have fun at the end of chapters and you end on crazy cliffhangers, sometimes when you do things like that, it doesn't work out at the time, but it's something you could file away in your brain and bring into your next novel or bring into a future novel. Now, while finishing everything you write can have its benefits, it also has its downside, and the major downside is that you end up wasting time on a story that isn't working. Now, this is frustrating because writing time, it's always going to be finite. You're only on this earth for so long, and if you waste time on a story that ultimately doesn't work, you're not going to get that time back. Now, that being said, I think you have to understand when it's okay to quit a story. I think, especially if you're a newbie, if you're somebody who's new to writing and you've never written your first novel, I think the very first novel that you do actually set out to write, I think you should finish that. And the reason why is because once you finish a novel, you get the idea in your head that you have written a novel. You no longer have to say to yourself, well, I tried writing a novel and it didn't work out. You can say to yourself, hey, I wrote a novel. Yes, it sucked. Yes, there's so many things wrong with it, but I'm going to write another novel, and I'll just keep doing it until I write one that's good. Now, once you have written at least one novel, then you can start deciding when it's okay to just throw your work away and start on something new. And it happens. Sometimes you come up with an idea that sounds great and you're really excited about it, and it's fun to set it up, it's fun to introduce the characters, but once you get into the middle, you start seeing that everything is falling apart and the idea doesn't really have legs. And if you have enough experience to write from start to finish, you will know whether or not you can take that idea to the finish. So I think if you do hit a situation where it's just not clicking and nothing is working, and you think that there's a better idea out there that you can try, by all means, move on from that, especially if you're only going to end up wasting your time and you're not going to have the right attitude, you're going to be in a miserable mood and you're just going to write it for the sake of writing it. Okay, I'm fine with that if you just push that one aside and you start something new. But as long as you keep writing something new, I think you're in a good spot. Question of the day, have you ever written a novel from start to finish? And if so, what did you learn from writing it? Let me know in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to check out my other videos. Hit the like and subscribe button for me, and remember to keep on writing.